This playmat is arguably the nicest thing I've ever received, and to receive this as a 20k sub congratulations gift is just the most crazy thing. Hey guys, quick thing before we get into this deck profile. I already posted this on social medias and stuff, but for those of you that haven't seen it, I got this from my dear friend CanYouSayG as well as from DerZweite, who drew the illustration as my 20k subs gift. I'm going to be using this playmat for the majority of videos. Part of me wants to use it for tournaments as well, but I feel like it's a bit too, I don't know, self-centered to have a playmat of myself, even though it is a present. But he sent me a letter with it, and there's also another present on top of that actually that came with this, which is clear acrylic markers of Daikaiser. Let me just cover it up so you see just how cool this looks. Also, I think my mic should be okay today, hopefully, but there we go. I think that kind of shows the illustration. It's so amazing. So I got two of these acrylic clear forces. They're super nice, honestly. I don't know if I can really use these outside of my shop tournaments, and even then they're hard to fit in the deck box, but these are so nice. I think I'm just gonna use them as I don't know, separators maybe, but oh my god, they are so good looking. You have no idea how amazing this is. So I'm just gonna quickly show you the letter. Thing is, part of this letter includes instructions for a giveaway, but I'm currently already running a giveaway that you'll find on the video I did for Card Market, for selling cards on Card Market. So I can't do two at the same time, so I'll postpone this one to a bit later. I don't think it's that time sensitive, but so let's just take a look at it. So I'll show you the letter. So at DifferentFight, congratulations on getting to your YouTube goal of 20k subscribers. At DerZweite92 and I have produced a little something as commemoration for reaching your grand landmark. We hope you enjoy your present. So that's what this playmat and the markers are. And then here it says, I've also included two playmats for you to use as giveaway in this video. So as I said, we're already running a giveaway now, so I'm going to hold off on this for a different video, potentially until October-ish, I would say. I think it's still pretty fitting to release it there. But it's something pretty exciting, so look forward to that. That letter will continue in with whatever video I pick. But so, thank you so much to both CanYouSayG and DerZweite. Follow them both on Twitter. I'll leave links in the description. This playmat is just god tier. It's honestly absolutely perfect. By far my favorite playmat that I've ever owned. And I just love it. It's so good looking. You have no idea. So let's just jump into today's video, which is going to be taking a look at the updated Gauntlet Buster deck. Also, huge thank you to Claret Cards. This is where I got my cards from for this wave of support. So if you still want to pick up some stuff from this set or the upcoming VBT06, then go check out Claret Cards. Huge shout out for all of this, because honestly, it's a very clean process. The cards arrive safely and really quick, and honestly, I couldn't be happier. So let's get back into the video. So this deck has gone over quite a few changes. It is one of the strongest decks in Standard. It's not unbeatably strong or Bermuda strong, but it's quite strong. It has a lot of good matchups both in this current set, but also this deck is kind of built to play against Pale Moon and stuff like that that's coming in a couple weeks. So just keep that in mind. But I'm gonna go over matchups and other important elements of card interactions as we go through the deck. So let's just get into it and just go through the deck, because there's quite a bit to talk about. This deck is very cool. Narukami is one of my favorite clans in Standard, so let's just get into it. So first card that we're gonna have is obviously the Gauntlet Buster Dragon. Now let me just put this in a more or less, glareless area. It's kind of hard to do that these days, but let's go over his skill. So his skill is, during your turn, this unit gets plus 5k and plus 1 crit for each of your opponent's open front or rearguard circles. So if you're playing against Force or Protect, this will be just a plus 10k plus 2 crit if they're open. But if you're playing against something like Axel, this will go up with each open Axel circle they have 2. His second skill to complement that is act Vanguard Circle, count +1 and discard 1. If you do, you bind all of your opponent's front row rear guards, and you may move all of your opponent's back row rear guards to a rear guard circle in the same column. So this incorporates so many things in one. It's a power up with a crit. It's also a front row field wipe, a complete field decimation against clans like Golds, Nova Grappler, and stuff like that, which is really good. The cost isn't that steep either. It just count +1, discard 1. The discard 1 can be a bit pricey because this deck doesn't draw as much as you would like. Axel 2 and one of the new cards helps quite a lot, but still it is a pretty hefty cost. But apart from that, it's just really nice because this deck is really good against quite a lot of the meta. It's good against Aquaforce, that was quite popular. I'd say even Grand Blue. Grand Blue is questionable because Grand Blue can wipe out their own front row targets. So, the card is good against basically anything that keeps their front row at the end of turn. So, against Pale Moon, for example, it's a bit questionable because it's good in the sense that it powers up a lot and gets a lot of crits, but that's only because Pale Moon has a lot of Axle Circles. But against Force and Protect clans, that wipe out their front row at the end of turn, so like DP can do that, and then like I said, Grand Blue can do that, but then clans like OTT, for example, they usually keep their front row at the end. This is much better against, because the reason why, we'll go into it in a little bit, but there's a grade 2 that complements, you know, still retiring something instead of just powering up from his skill. Then our secondary grade 3 is the Detonics Drill Dragon. I think you probably already know his skill. He's just a restander. Once per turn when he attacks a Vanguard count +1, you bind your opponent's front row rear guard, one of them, and then you discard the same number of cards as the remaining rear guards on your opponent's board, and then he restands, and then he loses 5k. I mean, he loses 1 drive but gains 5k. So he's still a very good backup. That's the only grade 3s I run. I was thinking of running more, or maybe cutting down one of him to run others, but thing is, both of these cards are very good and capable of winning games on their own. And Detonics Drill Dragon got a support card in the set too that makes him even better. And so therefore, I think it's like, if you're grade stuck and you need to G-assist, either one of these that you G-assist into, you'll be happy with. But if you G-assist into like a Thunderbreak or something, or, you know, one of the other cards, it's not going to be as good. So I chose not to play the other ones because I feel like these two are fine on their own and they can carry the deck pretty well. Like, it depends which matchup you're up against, which one you'll use. Obviously, you want to have your opponent's field to be empty for Detonics, because that's when it's most effective. Also, like, Gauntlet Buster doesn't do as much once your opponent's on 5, so, like, the extra push from the restand obviously is going to be much more impactful, so that's something to keep in mind. But then Detonics does lack in numbers in that sense too, so it really depends on the matchup, on the state of the game and stuff like that, so that's something you need to figure out as you're playing the game. So honestly, if you want to see me play this deck in action, I'm going to play it quite a bit in Vanguard DX, so you want to see what it looks like, then just tune in. Going into grade 2s, one of the new guys that we have is 4 of the Cho-Oh. Cho-Oh is a very good card. He has a skill, when placed, you may combo +1 and choose a column and bind one of your opponent's front rear guards in that column, and then move the thing behind it to the, to the front row, basically. So it's really good because it's a 2-in-1. It's also a Vanguard skill, which is pretty cool. So you get to bind something, and then you get to move it up for the same counterblast, which is a really good, you know, like, effect for 1 counterblast. So that's definitely very nice. And then his second skill is, at the end of the battle that your Vanguard attacked, once per turn, if your opponent's front row has no rear guards, you may counterblast 1 and stand him. Now, the sad thing is that this has to wait until your Vanguard is done attacking for the first time, because you essentially, like, cannot stack triggers on him and restand him, because he has to attack once, then you attack with Vanguard, and then even if you stack triggers on him, you'll only have them for 1 attack. So you have to attack with him before you attack with the Vanguard, no matter what, otherwise he won't go off. So keep that in mind. But this card is really good because he does a lot of things in just 1 card. Like, he's a binder, a mover, and a restander in 1. He's the most counterblast heavy card in the deck as well, so that's something that's kind of changed a bit. The deck wasn't as counterblast heavy beforehand, but now it's gotten pretty heavy in that sense. So that's just something worth to note. Then we have 4 of the card that I meant when I said that, you know, again, some clans want to be binding, is the Zuitan. So he's made a swift return. He is absolutely amazing now too. His skills are both free. First skill is, when your opponent's rearguard is bound during your turn, this unit and all of your Gauntlet Busters on Vanguard and rearguard circles get 5k until end of turn. So even if you call Gauntlet Buster on the rearguard circle, it will gain a power up, and that's huge because you want to be powering up not only from his own Vanguard skill, but this extra power up from Zuitan is super important for being able to hit magic numbers. And honestly, one of the weaknesses of Narukami against clans like DP is that, like, DP can just, like, do Daisaurus, go into Soul, leave the front row empty. They swing with a 22. That's literally just a 20k to pass, and that's really unfortunate. So even 1 extra 5k from Zuitan is important. So without having to call, like, Rising Phoenixes or the Demolition Dragon behind him in order to actually get the magic number going. So, like, Zuitan helps a lot just with that first skill. So there's a lot of matchups where that will actually lead to huge power. Like, Azel will be huge power. Pale Moon, unfortunately not. But then stuff like Dark Regulars doesn't really clear their board until the, like, final turn, so there's that. Against Shadows, they always leave Blaster Dark on the front row, so you get to bind those, and that's honestly very, very good. They can't recycle them anymore, but I mean, then it depends who goes first. But thing is, speaking of going first, the other really good thing with this deck is that Gauntlet Buster works from the very first ride, and so does the Detonics Drill, so you have a lot of pressure from turn 3, don't have to wait for turn 4 to do your crazy stuff, even if you go first, so that's really, really good. I haven't said Zuitan's second skill though, which is also really amazing. At the end of the battle that he attacked the Vanguard, if your opponent's front row has no rear guards, you may put him into your soul to draw a card. So this is like Coral Assault basically with a different condition. So it's legit just, as long as you've bound everything in the front row, you get a free draw and a soul. And soul is important in this deck because we still run the one and only amazing staple that is Death Scythe, which requires 2 soul blasts. So you definitely want to be gathering soul for this card. Let me put him somewhere that's not too glary. There we go, let's keep it like that. So Death Scythe, if you don't already know, is when placed Soul Blast 2. You bind one of your opponent's front or rear guards and he gets plus 3k, and then when he attacks the Vanguard, if your opponent doesn't have a rear guard in the same column as he is in the front row, then he gets plus 5k as well, so he gets a plus total of 8k if you called him that turn, which is very nice. This card is very good. It's our only, I think it's our only bind that doesn't cost Counterblast, but because of that, like, it's Soul Blast 2. And so getting the extra soul from cards like Detonics is very, very important and does help you push through the game. Next up, this is just going to be basically staples. So Rising Phoenix is very much a staple. This card is just insane. Every time when you bind a rearguard during your turn, you call him from drop zone, he gets plus 3k, meaning he's 11. Behind a 12, that means he's 23. If Gauntlet Buster is at 22, then this is going to be a 33k column. Very important. Also important for making magic numbers with, like, basically anything. Any grade 3, and then grade 2s, if you use a grade 1 that we're going to take a look at, then that makes magic numbers 2. But in general, it's just good. In early game, you can call them to the front row and then be able to poke with 11Ks, which is also nice. And then if they get retired, then you can just call them back next turn, which is the biggest strength of this guy. Like, sometimes your opponent will not attack him, will not get rid of him, just because they know that he's going to come back even stronger. So that's why sometimes you'll call over him yourself just to bring him back to get that extra power up, because it's costless. It's literally just free, so there's no reason not to do it. And then finally, I haven't gotten my congratulations promos yet. This is the Demolition Dragon. So Demolition Dragon is pretty simple. He has a Vanguard Circle ability. When his attack hits a Vanguard, you draw a card. So a lot of grade 1s have been getting this lately, but this was one of the first ones. So he's very, very good for that reason. And then his second skill is just, if there's no rear guards in your opponent's front row, he gets plus 3k. So he's same as Rising Phoenix. It's just that when you don't have Rising Phoenix, you call him behind to push for magic numbers with your grade 3s. And then also, let me just take a look at him immediately now, because this card is very important. Our second to last grade 1, that is the Gai-Bon. I hyped this card up pretty hard in the set breakdown, but this card is really good. So his skill is Rearguard Circle. At the end of the battle, your Vanguard attacked. Choose one of your units, and until end of turn, it gets plus 3k, and your opponent cannot call Sentinels from hand for the battle that the chosen unit attacked. So why this is good is, as I said, grade 2s, boosted by something like a Rising Phoenix. Oh yeah, this is Glareland, so let me just put it here. So this, I mean, without skills is 17. With this skill, this is going to be 20. So then if you give the extra 3k from the Gai-Bon, that's going to be 23, which is a magic number against all decks, which is very important. So what you can do is, like, the only downside is that he's 7k, so he is lower than the rest of the deck. You can basically call him down behind like a Death Scythe, or like, then they'll make 19 with like these ones, they'll make 19, so it's kind of, it's at least breaking the 18k threshold, but then you can give the extra power to the other column that needs it. And then the best interaction with this guy, and the reason why I play him as a 3 of, is because with the Detonics Drill Dragon, you attack with him once, and then at the end of that battle, Gai-Bon's skill will trigger, and then essentially you're going to give that extra 3k to the Detonics Drill. It's going to restand with an extra 8 this time, so it's 20 on its own. You'll put a booster behind it just so it hits for good numbers, but then the second battle that it attacks, your opponent can't call Sentinels anymore, and so therefore if this attack is really huge, that's going to be a big problem for them. So this is a pretty good use of that skill because it's a lot of pressure, and we're going to go into our trigger lineup because this card, in my opinion, defines the trigger lineup for this deck. So I think it's really important to talk about that. It's also good to put his skill on stuff like Gauntlet Buster and DerZweite because they're big numbers, and so if they can't guard with Sentinels and you stack the crit, spoiler alert, on like one of these cards and they're massive power because you bounce so much, then it's going to be a really big problem for the opponent. So this card is free. You literally just have to attack with your Vanguard to activate it, like even if it's grade 2, so it's definitely very good. The last card that we play is the 2 of the Bolt Capture Dragon. This card is good because it's the only card that we play that can take cards from behind the Vanguard into the front row. That's the only real use of him that you want to be using him for, because cards like Cho-Oh and Descendant, or I mean not Descendant, Gauntlet Buster, already pull up stuff from the back row of anything that is not behind the Vanguard. So this card is important. Some people play 2 Gai-Bons and then 3 of this. Some people play 4 of this, no Gai-Bons. Some people play 4 Gai-Bons, no this. I personally think that 3-2 is a good lineup, and I personally quite like it, so I think it's pretty much fine for that. Then trigger lineup. Let me just show you immediately because, like, I think this needs to be explained right off the bat. But so we're running a total of 7 crits. So I'm running one of this one just to catch opponents off guard, and then 4 of the Spark Edge Drago Kid. In my opinion, it's the nicest looking one. So the thing is that the reason why I'm not running fronts anymore, I used to run mainly fronts and then like 1 or 2 crits just to catch opponents off guard if they got too comfortable. But the reason why I'm running so many crits is just because I think this deck benefits from them. Because in the past, yes, you didn't care so much about the crits, but now with cards like this, like let's say if you ran fronts with the Gai-Bon Detonics drill combo, like what would happen is you would attack, then restand. Like, let's say the first attack your opponent takes if you're running all fronts or, like, guards, whatever, you know, because they might know that they can't use Sentinels next turn. But then, let's say he restands, Gai-Bon skill goes off, gives it to him, and then you attack the second time. And now if your opponent, if it's the usual deck where you run all fronts, and your opponent assumes that it is, then they can just say no guard to this, because what does this Sentinel pressure even mean? What does this card even do in that case? Like, this card isn't doing much in a front build, because the pressure is that, like, with the Detonics combo is that you will have the pressure of checking a crit on that one drive check and ruining their day. And so they have to now guard, and there's a lot more pressure coming from the Gai-Bon, and I think that's the reason why, like, these cards complement each other so well. The same goes for, like, you know, Gai-Bon and any rear guard too, because, like, suddenly Gai-Bon's whole, like, pressure mechanic of no Sentinels is nice because if you just get fronts and you attack with a big number, but it's only 1 damage, like, your opponent won't feel pressured about that until the end of the game. Whereas with crits, they'll feel pressured earlier on. So if you give this skill and a crit to something like a DerZweite that's already huge, then obviously that's going to be more incentive for the opponent to guard that rather than just let that big attack pass. And there you go, you wasted one of your Gai-Bon pressures. So I think crits are important in this deck. And so I think 6, 7, 8 is a good number, so play it like that. I mean, fronts are still good. Fronts are still good. I'm not going to take away from fronts, but I just think that if you're focusing on Gai-Bon, I think it's definitely worth to focus more on the crits in this case. Like, this deck already has a lot of power and can build magic numbers easily, so, and it can get around defensives pretty well too, in my opinion. So I think that, like, the need for fronts has decreased since the early, like, just Detonics drill era. Then on top of that, the rest of the trigger line was pretty predictable. 4 heals, very standard, and then 4 draw PGs, 1 regular PG, and then our starter. So it's nothing too mind-blowing, but the 1 extra PG, I mean 1 extra draw I run just because we have discard costs for both of our grade 3s. So I kind of like having the extra draw. Like, discarding this is never bad. This can also be a booster to quite a few things. And then on top of that, like, it's an extra draw that we can use to discard, so I don't really mind. I think 8 crit is fine too if you're against the idea of running a 5th draw. Some people run 6/6, I think that's fine too, so I don't see any problems with that. But honestly, I think this list runs very smoothly. It runs, like, it just plays very well. A lot of decks it can handle quite nicely. Like I said, some decks are pretty tricky matchups because, like, Pale Moon clears their own board. But the thing is that you still have open rearguard circles they can profit off of, and then, like, you know, restand or hit with massive crits, etc. But then the thing is that against some decks, you need to be able to pop off that front row, like, every turn. And so, like, that's where you really shine, because against decks like Aquaforce and stuff like that, or like Novas, this deck is really, really good. I think it's overall very strong, and just, you know, the fact that it's been topping quite a lot is definitely well-deserved. So I think this deck is quite good, but that's actually it for my deck profile. Let me know what you guys think, whether you agree with my opinion on crits, as well as Gai-Bon and stuff like that. I think most Narukami deck lists are pretty similar. Like, everybody agrees that these 2 new cards are insane, Gauntlet Buster is insane, and then for grade 1s, like, the only thing you change is just what you play here, basically, in these 5 slots. Everything else is kind of set in stone. I think this is the set in stone part. This is flexible, and then triggers are also very much debated. So that's something that I think is up for discussion. So if you have other ideas, or if you're a fellow Narukami player and you have other, you know, thoughts on the deck list, etc., then please let me know. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.